Hello and welcome to round 11 of the 2020 Formula Virtual World Championship here from Sakhir, Bahrain. My name is Bradley Down and I'm joined tonight by Robert Mathershaw.
Good evening.
Tonight then, the drivers will tackle 57 laps of this 5.412km circuit under the floodlights for the third time here in Sakhir. It was Nathaniel Powers who won last time out after Ruiz lost a certain victory while running into Victor Rosberg. Nathaniel Powers has won 50% of the races here in Bahrain. Can he add to those 3 wins tonight? Let's take a look through the grid then, and it's the third Downton front row lockout in 4 races and the third consecutive pole for Klaas van Snelheid. Ahead of his champion teammate, Powers will be looking to overturn that in the race here today. On the second row, it's the 2 Mathershaw Porsches, only the third time one of them hasn't featured at the front of the grid. Enrique Ruiz leads Adrian Simon once again in that inter-team battle. On row 3, Will Hoskins starts from 5th for the 4th time in 5 races. Felix Perez goes from 6th, but he is the lead runner on the medium tyres, so keep an eye on Perez in the early phases of the race especially. Just behind them, it was a stellar effort from Dominique Casverinas, his best qualifying since 6th position in Malaysia. Jean Matson lines up alongside on row 4. Completing the top 10, we've got Puccio Giordano and James Vazquez, both with great results after recent solid performances. Just outside then, in 11th, Thierry Zylander ahead of his teammate for the 3rd time this year, while Gabriele Garcia outqualifies Halverson for the first time in 2020, meaning now no teammate is unbeaten in qualifying. Lining up 13th is Carl Beckenbauer, just behind on row 7 Marcus Thunder with both his and Lucas's best qualifying performance of the season so far. He is on the medium tyre, so keep an eye on Thunder as well. Lining up then on row 8, we've got Elroy Wagner in the lead of the Lopez cars. Sergio Alvarez goes from 16th, disappointed with qualifying, especially seeing where his teammate was. Row 9, we've got Nick Addison with his best performance of the season so far. Alar Kanga goes from 18th. He is on the soft tyre. We expect that to fall apart tonight, but well, keep an eye. It might be an interesting strategy. Hunter Ryan, 19th, is his worst qualifying performance of the season. Nikolai Milkovic is the highest placed teamer on the grid since Germany. Johan Halverson in 21st, very disappointed, just couldn't hook a lap up in qualifying. Carson Davenport likewise was disappointed not to be able to match his teammate, especially after the practice pace Lucas showed. Enzo Dominicali sits 23rd, just ahead of Timo Kinnaman on the 12th row. And at the back of the grid then, we've got Yukimi Takahashi and Finn Schneider, who makes the grid at the expense of Lewis Ellington, the first race for AMR since Spain.
As we go down to the grid then, it's Klaas van Snelheid in pole position. His teammate Nathaniel Powers lines up alongside in an all Downton front row. The lights go out now, we're racing in Bahrain then. It's a great start by one of the Franklins, I think that was, at the back of the grid. But it looks as though it's Nathaniel Powers then, who's up the inside. Alongside his teammate, Klaas van Snelheid down into someone. Nathaniel Powers then, is he going to take the lead? The 2 Downton Bulls will. Powers does shoot into the lead then, from 2nd on the grid. And behind them, Adrian Simon has jumped his teammate, Enrique Ruiz, as well. So, the even-numbered side of the grid looks as though they've got a better start then as they head into turn 4 for the first time. It's Powers leading from Klaas van Snelheid, Simon and Ruiz. Perez is up past Will Hoskins as well. Dominique Casverinas has maintained his 7th on the grid as the 2 Ingrams run 8th and 9th.
Fantastic start there for Powers. As you say, the right-hand side of the grid there got the inside line into turn 1, and Powers, Simon, Perez all really kind of benefiting over their teammate. It'll be interesting now to see how they can get on.
Yeah, it certainly will. And obviously Perez has the advantage of the medium tyre, so we'd have expected him to maybe get past his teammate at some point anyway. But all the 4 guys in front of him are on the hard tyres, so let's just literally on pure pace now then. As Nathaniel Powers leads them towards the end of the opening lap then. Klaas van Snelheid still running in 2nd ahead of Simon and Enrique Ruiz. Behind them, Puccio Giordano completing the top 10. And has anyone made significant gains? Finn Schneider's up to 23rd.
Yeah, brilliant start from Schneider there on the soft tyres. So bearing in mind that the team probably weren't expecting him to even make the race based on current form. To be honest, with the soft tyre, he's going to have to make those moves, but he certainly is making a start right now.
He certainly is then, as Nathaniel Powers leads him across the line, but Klaas van Snelheid is right in the slipstream of his teammate, and I thinks about a move there, but doesn't quite, decides against it on the brakes late into turn 1. As that is Carl Beckenbauer and Sergio Alvarez, I think it is, going side by side, and Beckenbauer goes through into 13th then.
Fantastic move from the German there in the new Westwood livery for their 100th race. I'm sure we'll get back to that at some point soon.
Yeah, we absolutely will, as Powers leads them through the sweepers then here on the second lap. But yeah, as you mentioned, yeah, it is the 100th race today for the Westwood team. Obviously, they missed a large part of the 2018 season and 2019 as well. So, despite being one of the original teams, didn't celebrate their 100th race along with the other initial main first
originals.
Started. That's the word I'm looking for.
The other originals at Spa.
The other originals.
But
yeah, in Spa in 2018, they're doing it today under the floodlights here in Bahrain with a throwback livery to their 2013 days.
Yeah, the car looking absolutely resplendent in its dark blue livery, and it's typical Lily, isn't it? Centre of attention. Obviously, pulls out for 1.5 years purely to have a 100th race to herself.
I think that is absolutely the reason.
No, I think it's great that we're celebrating another one of Formula Virtual's kind of historic teams now. Oh, and there we go. We've got a move from
Van Snelheid then. Down on the inside of his teammate. He wouldn't have liked losing the lead off the line. And Klaas takes it back then. Through and back into the lead on lap 3 here in Bahrain. And that's put Powers under pressure from Adrian Simon now, as he's had to back out through turn 3. But I don't think Simon can quite do anything with the pace advantage he had into turn 4.
Yeah, Van Snelheid getting the slipstream down the start straight there, really kind of putting the move on, and I reckon now that Van Snelheid probably will start to pull away a little bit, because he had the pace in qualifying, and I think all weekend we've seen Van Snelheid versus Powers, the Dutchman just that little bit of an edge, so I reckon he'll be able to put that to good use now, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not Powers can keep Simon behind.
Yeah, it certainly will, as Simon now has to defend then from his teammate Enrico Rees. Perez kind of keep it with them, to be fair, on the medium tyres, but then as is Hoskins. So none of them really breaking away up front. There is a small gap developing already, as I think we expected, between Hoskins and Viranas.
Yeah, I mean the Lithuanian, really good performance in qualifying to be best of the non-big three from this season. But yes, Viranas really matching Perez relatively well in qualifying. That Ocelot working well for him. Whereas Ryan, all the way down in 19th, starting on the same tyre, it's going to be a difficult race for the Australian, certainly compared to his young teammates.
Yeah, so for Hunter Ryan, I think it was his worst qualifying of the season. While Zviranas didn't quite have his best, he's here now. He's coming under pressure from James Vasquez, and in fact, Vasquez is through into turn 1 then. And when I looked a moment ago, it seemed as though Zviranas actually had a bit of a gap to those behind. Don't forget, he's on the medium tyre compared to a lot of people who are around him who are on the hards. But yeah, couldn't hold Vasquez back there. And the Colombian already rocketing off into the distance.
Yeah, the initial indication there seems to be that after that kind of first couple of laps of additional bites that the medium tyre provides, I'm not convinced there's going to be an awful lot of joy for the medium runners today. Perez already now is second off Enrique Ruiz pretty much, with Hoskins, his teammate, on the hard tyre right behind. I think we might be able to see the hard tyred runners really kind of putting the pressure on them, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out too.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Coming into this race, I don't think we really expected anything softer than a medium to work, so it will be very interesting to see how Al Arkanga and Finn Schneider get on today. But I mean, at least for us at Downton, it was a real tough call between the medium and hard tyre, because the hard tyre here is, I mean, it seems an obvious choice. The temperature is so warm, and it's a reasonable pit lane length. But the medium here last year was fairly quick. Enrico Ruiz was rocketing away as Nathaniel Powers sets the fast lap. I'm just going to interrupt myself because I think he's got a run on his teammate. Powers then down the inside of Klaas van Snelheid into turn 1, and on lap 5 here he goes back into the lead. Then goes to Brett, sweeps around Klaas van Snelheid as the two first behind him wheel to wheel as well, and that's Hoskins back past Perez. Matson through on Zviranas as well. They're all overtaken into turn 1.
Fantastic, brilliant move again from Powers, drafting up to back his teammate. I think that in the long run, this isn't going to do Downton much harm if these to be swapped, because all they're doing is slowly drafting away every time that move occurs. The two Porsche cars behind, they're within touching distance still, but it just kind of breaks up their rhythm a little bit, and I think it will keep the Downtons ahead quite easily. Yeah, really good.
I was to say they are Adrian Simon's still sticking right there though with the second of those Downton cars. Currently Klaas van Snelheid at the moment. But yeah, they do seem to have. I think that's what's aided the Downton team here, and you know, to some rather surprising qualifying times. We didn't expect them to be that far ahead, but they've always had a car that seems to be good in a straight line. And well, there's 3 long straights here and a 4th reasonably lengthy one.
Reasonably length. Good words. No, we've seen it. We've seen it this season so far, haven't we? First race of the season in Fuji with its extraordinarily long pit straight. The Downton cars right in the mix all the way through the race until eventually the race got stolen by Ala Kanga. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. These the Downtons can kind of take advantage of their straight line speed, and what you're seeing now, they're drafting away.
Yeah,
from
and that's Perez then. Perez unhappy with Will Hoskins going past on the hard compound tyre, and he's going to take that position back then, as Finn Schneider sets the fastest lap.
He's been doing that he's done that every lap so far. So either one of Powers, Van Snelheid, Ruiz, or Simon have taken the fastest lap and the first they've crossed the line, and then that soft tyre on Finn Schneider really working, to be honest. The problem is he's going to have to make an awful lot of pit stops relative to everybody else. I think it's one of those tyres that if you could guarantee you're starting on pole, I think the medium would be a good choice, as could potentially be the soft. And we do see Schneider on the screen. Is that's
a medium?
Mark sidewall. That's a medium tyre. Yes. So perhaps. So we're saying what we're talking about there. Maybe maybe the team have been slightly more conventional with their strategy. If so, actually,
if they're just taking all of the downforce off the car there.
Well, it can't. Well, no, because that would work in a straight line. But every time they got to a corner, they'd end up going straight on.
Well, yeah, very true.
A bit perplexing actually, because the pace differential would suggest the soft tyre, but yeah, well, the visuals clearly altered that.
Yeah, that's a strange one. We'll keep an eye on that then. I mean, if he is setting the fastest lap, he's not making a whole lot of progress because he's lost position since the start.
Yes, unfortunately
since the opening lap. But is this Jean Matson overtaking Viranas again? I'm sure he'd already got past a couple of laps ago.
I think in the previous lap, Viranas dive bombed into turn 1. It looks like that's going to be the main source of overtaking action today. But so the fans there are really going to get their money's worth.
Yeah, they certainly are then, as we just saw there, Marcus Thunder in the Lucas, as we go on board with Johan Halverson then. Halverson with a dismal qualifying for the second race in a row, and that is moving up at turn 4. We've not seen many overtakes. I don't think we've seen any overtakes at the moment here today, past Hunter Ryan, and Ryan's got all out of shape, and that's allowed Dominicali through as well.
Dominicali there showing dedication, commitment to the corner, making a move there that I don't think anybody was expecting around the outside with the sweepers going down from turn 4 downhill to the hairpin before sector 2. That's it's an incredible bit of overtaking there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful insight there from him to see that Ryan was out of shape and he was going to be able to take advantage of that. As we jump on board with Puccio Giordano now trying to put Sveranas under pressure. Then Matson looks as though he's escaped ever so slightly up the road. His teammate has absolutely legged it. In fact, Vasquez is catching the firsts.
He certainly is. Looking at the lead gaps, actually, yeah. So the gaps between the two.
So we go back to the leaders then. Sorry, Klaas van Snelheid down inside of his teammate once again into turn 1. And I think Klaas is going to go back through. Powers isn't really going to be able to fight him on the inside of turn 2 there. And indeed he doesn't. Klaas takes back the lead.
And Hoskins takes Perez back again. So yeah, we're seeing that team swapping positions there. Interestingly, Ruiz hasn't yet been able to make such a move on his teammate, and every time now the Dantons are swapping positions, because the two Porsches are sitting liners there, they just make up a couple of tenths. Obviously the Danton with their superior pace on this day are making it back, but Van Snelheid and Powers for the first couple of or for the first stage of this race probably could do with just sitting behind each other, or one sitting behind the other, and really kind of pushing on, because you can see there as well Hoskins and Perez also battling. Well, they've dropped 5 seconds off the lead already.
Yeah, and as I just mentioned, falling into the clutches of Vasquez then, who is closing up to the back of Felix Perez now. But yeah, I think every lap the Downtons don't overtake one another. They just edge slightly away from the team actual Porsches. each of them wants to be in the lead.
Yeah, it's a difficult dynamic to balance though, because if you are quicker, it makes sense to have you in front. But then the speed of each car in the Downton team at the moment seems to purely be on the who's got the slipstream. And I think we might be about to see Nathaniel Powers making another move by the time he gets to the braking zone.
I don't know, we jump on board with the Brit then. I don't think he's quite going to be close enough this time round. And indeed, no, thinks better of it. Classman's now keeps the lead. But yeah, I think this is obviously a product of Downton's let them race policy. And well, I mean, I for one am glad for that. We've had 4, 5 lead changes in inside 10 laps here.
Oh, most definitely. But what it has done is allowed Adrian Simon. They'd broken the toe somewhat, so they'd managed to kind of pull away. But Adrian Simon now, within half a second, actually being able to tow back up to Nathaniel Powers on each of the straights. So it's a risky strategy, but as you say, it's one that does provide a hell of a lot of entertainment for us. So let's crack on.
Yeah, absolutely. As we go back to Zverinas then, still defending from Giuliano. He's not lost any further places yet, and Matson hasn't been able to escape up the road quite as much as his teammate did. And behind Giuliano, the 2 Phoenix cars was Zylander and Alvarez. So Alvarez has made up spots this time.
Yeah, the Phoenix cars, if you just said to them at the start of the season 11th and 12th, they'd probably have bitten your hand off. But actually, it's probably a good couple of positions below where we've become accustomed to in the last few races. But again, another solid performance from both Zylander and Alvarez.
Yeah, Alvarez has put some stunning performances in recently. Actually, was he not a lot higher on the grid? No, he wasn't. He was 16th. So Alvarez has had a stellar start to the race then. Made up 4
yeah, no, he's
so
really
far,
done well.
As I think now we're going to get an overtake. Nathaniel Powers pulls out of the slipstream, down the inside on Klaas van Snelheid into turn 1, and Powers will take back the lead here in Bahrain.
There we go. It's like watching motorcycle racing. Every lap, somebody's changing
and
the lead.
that's really put Klaas under pressure now then. From Adrian Simon, who's right tucked up under the rear wing of the Downton into turn 4, but doesn't attempt the move then.
Yep, and is that Giordano headed Zverinas? Yes, it is. The Italian making the move there, finally getting a bit of free air. See whether he can get up to the back of Jean Matson.
I tell you what, those medium tyres are not working for Zverinas, are they?
No, not at all. And I'd wager to say that I don't know, Perez is having a little bit of a better time with them, but they're certainly not helping him keep up with the leaders, considering that is a car that has now won 2 races in quick succession.
No, and he's not. You do expect. I mean, okay, we've seen the first is probably a couple of tenths or so a lap behind the Downtons and the Mattershall Porsches. But Perez on the medium tyres, you'd at least expect to be gapping his teammate, and he's just not.
No, not at all. I think that we've seen this in the past couple of races. Usually when we get people on different tyres, there's the tyre has a clear pace differential, but it's the longevity of the tyre that's really the differentiating factor. But at the moment, all we're seeing is you're getting the same pace out of the tyre, and we've had it for the past 2 or 3 races. You get about the same pace out of the tyre, it just doesn't go as fast, so there's really no benefit to running it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, to be fair, with Vasquez as close as well, this could be setting Perez up for a really difficult afternoon. You might have to put in quite a few overtakes here today, as again, side by side go the 2 firsts, and Hoskins goes back through. I tell you what, if anything, Will's not helping his teammate here, is he? He's
no,
trying to
not
overtake
at all.
him. He's not letting Perez. He's not giving Perez a chance to escape.
No, you're getting much the same problem for the firsts, but as they battle, all they're doing is holding themselves up. It's almost to the point now where Perez, for Hoskins, it's not his race to run, but actually, if the medium tyre in front isn't working, then of course you're going to overtake. So Perez either needs to sacrifice his race now to benefit Hoskins, or Hoskins needs to try and help Perez, one or the other. At the moment, they're doing neither, and it's only harming their cause.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget, coming into this, first they're right up there in the championship. They're only a point behind Mattershall Porsche, which is just ridiculous to consider. And they're not tremendously far off Downton, who lead the championship at the moment. So they'll be wanting to absolutely maximise as many points from this as they can take.
Oh, most definitely. I think that we've seen that the Porsche team have had a very rough couple of races. Well, they've had a rough season, to be honest, in terms of luck, reliability. In some instances, driver problems, driver error. But Yeah, the fact that
Balls.
first they're so close.
Oh, here we go. Sorry, Klaas-Van Snelheid. As the two Downtons go wheel to wheel once again.
Oh.
And this time it's the Dutchman down the inside into turn 1 and taking back the lead.
Be interesting now to see whether or not Simon has got close enough. And once again, Perez barging back past his teammate. And Vasquez is just watching this going, well, you keep doing that, I'm going to keep getting closer, and I'll see you there.
And he is keeping getting closer. He's only a second and a half back from Will Hoskins now, as that is Enzo Dominicali through on Nikolai Milkovic and Yukumi Takahashi passing Finn Schneider. As Alar Kanga then, we thought there were two drivers on the soft tyres, it would appear Schneider isn't. So Kanga is the sole driver on the soft tyres, makes his first stop at the end of lap 11. That's 5 trips through the pit lane.
That's going to be a miserable evening for the Estonian.
Practically no ground in his opening stint either.
That's very difficult for Alar Kanga there. Be interesting to see whether or not Schneider does pit in the next lap to give us an indication that he was in fact on the soft tyre. But Kanga there with the correct coloured soft tyre, shall we say. Not really standing much of a chance today other than putting mileage on the car and using up some engine.
Yeah, I think he'd, to be honest, even at this point, I think Alar Kanga would be better off parking it than walking away.
I'm inclined to agree, to be honest with you.
Unless there were 25 retirements in front of him. As the two Downtons are going to go at it again into turn 1, this time it's Nathaniel Powers down the inside. And taking the lead back from his teammate.
Powers there taking the lead with the obligatory down position swap for lap 13.
It's almost like we've instructed them to do it.
And indeed, Perez and Hoskins, and there you go, Vasquez and Giordano.
That's on Matson.
Giordano and Matson, but Giordano did manage to get up to Matson and make the overtake, so now he's got 3.5 seconds to make up until he gets to Hammers Vasquez, but the pace that Giordano's showing today, he could well be best of the rest.
Yeah, Giordano, absolutely flying.
And depending on how Perez's day goes on the medium tyre, could be a top 6 or better depending on reliability for Giordano. What a brilliant way that would be for Westwood to celebrate their 100th race.
It certainly would be, although having said that, I don't think James Vasquez, in the form that he's in at the moment, is going to be in any mood to let him through easily at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Giordano up into 8th place now then. Just ahead of Jean Matson's, very nice rounding out the top 10 on those medium tyres. Just slightly further back, I just want to mention Lucas a second. So Marcus Thunder's currently running in 15th. He's also on the medium tyres. Started 14th, so he has lost one position. His teammate started quite a bit further back last lap, but has made a few spots up. But Lucas came into this weekend, and after practice on Friday, it was really positive. The cars were 9th and 10th, and looked as though they had some real tremendous pace around here, but it just didn't quite materialise in qualifying.
Yeah, I think we've seen it a couple of times this season. I think that there are drivers that kind of really put in a good performance in practice when they're going for somewhat of a glory run, when others are just kind of concentrating on their main program. And then in qualifying, even we're seeing drivers creeping into the top 10 who kind of otherwise would be nowhere near. Lucas seems to be one of the more consistent teams in the midfield. I think that they're never far off the position that they're in now, but then they don't get these standout performances where they kind of jump up the field a little bit for one or two races. So, yeah, perhaps they're due a bit of luck.
Well, I was just going to say, I think actually we've seen in the last sort of 2 or 3 races here included, actually Lucas just seemed to be maybe just ever so slightly making that step forward. I mean, it wasn't, a whole long ago that they were sort of in amongst those back 6 or 8 with Chima and Franklin and Arrow. But they seem to be solidly in or at the back of the midfield now.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think that they've taken a step forward and they've been consistent in doing so. Rather than getting 1 or 2 lucky results, they've just been plodding away with their consistency, just sitting there in the midfield. So, no, most definitely.
Certainly be interesting to keep an eye on, as we've got the two Downtons absolutely line astern. There's about 3/10 between them. I wonder if this is going to be another overtake as we go on board with Klaas-Van Snelheid. And he was getting closer, he was getting ever so closer to his teammate, but I don't think he's going to try it this time. Nope, we'll switch back to Enrique Ruiz behind, and I think it's the two Matthew Portrait guys that are playing this brilliantly at the moment, isn't it? They're just sat there, towing one another along, not overtaking, not wasting time, and keeping themselves up with the Downton pair.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the raw pace of the cars, this isn't really where the Mothershore Porsche should be. I think they should be a good couple of seconds behind the Downton by now. But the fact that they are just sitting there, as you say, they're just keeping in the fight while Van Snelheid and Powers hemorrhage time by battling each other. Really, it's an interesting difference in team strategy, because obviously there's nothing to suggest that Ruiz has been told to sit behind Adrian Simon, but he's certainly. I think that Ruiz, he has a reputation for being one of the most hot-headed drivers on the grid, and we've seen it this season already. We saw it at Silverstone when he made contact with Adrian Simon. But I think in the recent races, Ruiz has just settled down that little bit more into his position at Mothershore Porsche.
He'll do something silly in the coming races, don't worry.
Well, quite possibly, but from what I've seen, and I have some insights, he certainly, I think his maturity and his kind of more level-headed approach, I think that's the sort of thing that will pay him and put him in really good stead for this season, for the rest of the season coming.
Yeah, very much so. As I do think, that they're playing this
Here we go
at the
again.
moment, but this is this is going to be another overtake for the Downton boys. Class Van Snelheid this time. Once again, down the inside into turn 1, takes back the lead, does the Dutchman. I've absolutely lost count of how many times they've overtaken one another now. But
however
Adrian
many times
Simon
that
just
is.
sniffs a run into turn 4. I don't think he's going to do anything with it, as Perez goes back past Will Hoskins. These two now 9 seconds off the lead. They're really costing themselves time, as that is Giordano passing Matson again. So he obviously didn't get that far ahead because Matson must have come back at him.
No, most definitely. That slipstream down the front stretch in particular is worth so much time. That's the only reason that the Porsches are staying quite so far up at the front. And if you can get into this train that we've got, so effectively we've got Giordano in 8th all the way down to Hunter Ryan in 20th position, all Linus Stern. You've got half a second between pretty much every car in that train. So how many is that? That's 12 cars all just absolutely running as one, really.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I think that just goes to highlight as well how brilliant a job Vasquez did to get to the front of that and then break away.
Yeah, I think he might have benefited a little bit from Zviranas causing a little bit of a roadblock to Giordano and Matson, but yeah, he's certainly taken advantage of that of that kind of free air that he's now got and has just run away with it. And now only 2.5 seconds behind Hoskins, so. Things looking good for Vasquez.
He has actually slipped back a little bit in the last couple of laps, but I mean, you say Zviranas for calling him. Well, yeah, okay. I think he's clearly one of the slower cars in that train. But Giordano and Matson aren't pulling that far ahead, and neither of the Phoenixes have actually passed him yet.
No, for sure. I just think that Zviranas, now that he has got that slipstream of 2 cars to sit in behind, things are just going to be that little bit easier to keep ahead of the Phoenix cars. But Zyland are really threatening to make a move on Zviranas now, though.
Yeah, he was certainly very close there down into someone, but thought better of it this time round. He might try something on the next lap with, maybe a slightly better exit out the final corner and a bit more slipstream. But we will keep an eye on that one. It's still Giordano leading this little gaggle at the moment. Up front, still less than 2 seconds, cover the top 4. And I'm just wondering, I mean, when you look at the qualifying times, there were about 4 tenths between the lead Downton and the lead match of Porsche, and I think we'd have expected them to pull away. The fact, obviously, we've mentioned, I think Mothershore playing this really well, keeping their guys from overtaking one another and just allowing them to sit there. This could come down to the pit stops and a potential undercut.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I think as well, with the hot temperatures, a bit split whether or not we're going to see it. We might well see a 2-stop race, even on the hard tyre. And I think that's something that Porsche will definitely be mindful of, as we see Nathaniel Powers. I was going to say, they're going to go again here, aren't they? Nathaniel Powers pulls out and he's alongside and ahead, even before turn 1 this time round. Then he obviously got a much better exit out the final corner as Ruiz gets the closest to Adrian Simon, I think I've seen him. Yeah, I think that for Porsche to win this race, it's going to take some good pit stops from them or some bad pit stops from Downton, really. But sitting in this position, they're really poised to take advantage of any particular move that one of the Downtons puts on each other if it doesn't go quite as well as it did, particularly when you come into that stage of the race where they're going to be less inclined to just let their teammate pass and follow them for a couple of laps.
Yes, this is very true.
Well, I'm here. I'm only here to provide colour to this commentary.
As we just saw John Matson there going back past Petru Giordano and into 8th place then. So Giordano, unlike Vasquez, not able to break away from this little gaggle. But, I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure he'll be particularly fast. He's got a pretty swanky looking car at the moment.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think all the cars are looking pretty swanky because this is, of course, Formula Virtual's first night race.
Not quite.
Not quite? Well,
it's Formula Virtual's only night race. But, yeah, I think the last 2 years in Bahrain have been under the floodlights.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That shows how much we turned up. But no, you look at the cars.
Won one of them.
Well, that's good. You look at the liveries, and they're really sparkling under the lights. I mean, I was very fond of our throwback Brumos Porsche livery, but seeing the Coca-Cola colours back with the signature red of Malishore technology on the car, it's really sparkling, and it's something we're just so pleased with how it looks under these lights.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, every car looks absolutely fantastic here in Bahrain. It always does. We go back to James Vasquez then. He's about, still 2.5 seconds behind the first pair. But I tell you what, he is absolutely keeping himself in play for what could be 6th position here. I mean, Perez is clearly going to have to make more pit stops than the guys on the hards, seeing as he runs the mediums. And he's not gaining pace, is he? That he needs to be.
No, absolutely. Just thinking about this, though, we're getting to the stage now where for Perez it's a nailed-on 2-stop, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
If the hard-tired runners stop before half distance, which isn't out of the question, considering how hot it is here, they will still do 2 stops. Admittedly, that last stint will be so much shorter they can really push on the hard tyre. But it might not actually turn out to be a differential in the number of pit stops that the medium and hard-tired runners have. So it's going to be crucial that these hard-tired guys can at least push on to half distance because, well, here we go. So we've got Perez now, which is pretty much perfectly 2 stops. But what's that? We need to see another 9 laps from the hard-tired runners. So
is it? Well, Perez peeling in here at the end of lap 19, isn't it? So what does that take him? 19:30. Oh yeah, it would be 19:38.57.
Yeah. So
and indeed the other medium runners behind as well. Also peeling to pits then Wagner, Addison, and Hunter Ryan.
But it'd be perfect for the medium runners running from here. But as I say, 9 laps more on a tyre that's only 1 step harder. This isn't a foregone conclusion for the hard-tired runners that they're going to get the advantage over the medium. But
it's not. But then so Kanga pitted on lap 11, didn't he? So that's an 8-lap difference between the soft and the medium, and I'd expect a greater difference between the medium and the hard.
I think we've always seen that the soft and the medium are always a very different proposition, whereas the medium and the hard, I possibly expect there to be less of a differential, to be honest, based on what we've seen. But this one's anyone's call, really.
Yeah, it'll certainly be an interesting one to watch unfold, and we will keep you an eye on it. Terrible English, but there we go.
I will keep you an eye on it.
We will.
Can I have both eyes on it?
No, just the one.
Just the one, okay.
Up front though, the Downtons have obviously decided that they're giving time away. They've stopped overtaking one another, and they've now got 2 seconds back to on. Oh, it's Enrique Ruiz. Ruiz has passed his teammate.
Oh, there you go. And,
there we go. That's because the Matsushita Porsches have started squabbling.
So there you go. So actually, I think you're wrong. I think the Downtons haven't decided not to overtake each other. I think that Enrique Ruiz and Adrian Simon are thinking that looks fun. Let's have a go for a bit.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it, doesn't it?
It's certainly not a good move because, as you can see, after 2 laps, they've lost probably 3/4 of a second.
Yeah, certainly dropped a considerable amount of time as we've now got Zverev and Marcus Thunder into the pits then. So the second round of sort of mid tyre runners, the ones that have managed to just eke them out a lap longer, Yukumi Takahashi also into the pit lane then.
Yeah, so not Sergio, Felix Perez after his pit stop, coming out all the way down in 16th position below Enzo Domenicali.
Yeah, that's painful, isn't it?
Well, the problem is that Domenicali's right in front. But then if he gets past him, there's another 6 seconds or 5 seconds before he has to worry about Garcia, Halverson, Davenport. In fact, he has to worry everybody up to 7th place with John Matson. So if he can dispatch Melikali quickly, that gap might just about cover him until they start to pit on the hard tyre.
Well,
But
I mean,
he's mired in the midfield here in a car that really shouldn't be there. This strategy, it's
there we go. He's through
touch and
past
go.
Minicali.
Oh, yeah, there
not
you
quite.
go.
There,
Yeah, just about.
That's obviously a move at turn 1 at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Perez has gone through then as the Downlands and Matisha Porsches go at it again. And that's Ruiz moving back into 3rd. Actually, no, I think Glass kept the lead that time. I don't think Powers was quite close.
Nope, but another half a second has just gone down the pan for the Porsches. So
yeah, they're starting to cost themselves here, aren't they? They're starting to pull themselves out of the undercut window.
well, I think they've had to commit now to doing something different, and unfortunately, the thing they did differently was let's go slower than the Downtons. But Matson now under real pressure from Thierry Zylander, whose helmet I think looks great under the lights as well.
It certainly does. I've always been a fan of Zylander's helmet.
Thank you.
But Finn Schneider puts in the fast slap again.
Interestingly, Finn Schneider's team is listed as Finn Schneider.
Well, AMR, because he's the first car that's qualified for them in about 4 races, they've obviously decided to literally throw everything behind it, team name and all.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
But I think Matson was coming under pressure from the Belgian there, just because Puccio Giordano had just put him slightly offline by overtaking him through the opening couple of corners. But yes, it seems to be difficult for anyone to really overtake into turn 4, with the exception of the move that we saw from Halverson earlier in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And Powers.
That was good for it again.
There we go. So if they do that, and Ruiz and Simon realise that they can drive line astern again, it might bring them back into the undercut window. So it's not the smartest of driving from anyone at the top of the grid at the moment, really.
It's not, but it's ridiculous to consider that they're doing that and they've still got the pace to pull out a 10-second gap on Hoskins. Admittedly, the two first were overtaking one another as well. But
yeah, no, it's an impressive turn of pace that the top 4 have for certain. Perez still 4 seconds behind Davenport there, so it's not too bad, and can get in for his second stop. How far will he plummet? Do we think he'll come out in the last place?
Yes.
Easy. Absolutely. Oh, and that's a move there from...
that's thunder on Addison, and that's of no surprise. There's absolutely no love lost between those two. There was a bit of a rivalry started between them a lot earlier in the year, wasn't there? And since that was kind of kicked off and made public knowledge, they've actually found themselves together on track quite a few times, and colliding on a number of occasions.
No, I think that goes back to the classic saying, seek and ye shall find. I think one of them wants to find the other one to take them out, and they're giving each other ample opportunity to do so.
Yeah, very much so. But, Addison and Thunder, I think I'm fairly sure they're both on the medium tyres. Thunder started a few spots higher up the grid and has now moved back past Nick Addison then. I'm not sure he'll romp away, but we'll have to keep an eye on them as the two Master Porsches go side by side into turn 1 again. It looked as though Ruiz was really squeezing Adrian Simon that time.
Yes, I said he was level-headed. He's certainly no less of a hard racer than he always has been.
But you can see the time it's cost them. It's now sort of 3.5 seconds off the lead. As this is Jean Matson going back into 7th, past Puccio Giordano. We're seeing a lot of overtakes and stuff. I don't even want to count them. I think this is a record already for this season.
No, absolutely. I can't help but think that if somebody had tried to soft tyre at the front, it might well have just pulled them away.
But see, I'm wondering this. Look at Perez back in the midfield. Okay, yes, he's passed Minicali. He's on a fresh medium tyre compared to worn hards in a car that should be running right at the front. And he's had, 2 laps now, and still hasn't caught Carson Davenport.
Yeah.
The mediums just seem to have no pace. And, Kanga's not doing much better. When he came out of the pits after his first stop, it took about 7 laps to catch Takahashi.
That's a very fair point. If Schneider is truly on the medium tyre and he's getting fastest laps, that must mean that Kanga's pace is absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, that's a very fair point.
Like, Kanga's pace must be absolutely diabolical, as once again the Porsches cost each other time.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I think Klaas was considering maybe trying to let them catch up a bit, but just thought better of it that lap. He'll do it next time then. Mind you, I tell you what, at least the people in the grandstands in turn 1 are getting an overtake every lap now. First time round it's the Downlands, next time it's the Matishaw Porsches.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think it's quite interesting the power that the Slipstream has here, because we've seen it in other races, in other places as well. But the straight's just long enough for the Slipstream to really take effect, but not so long that both cars become power limited and everybody kind of stagnates into a holding pattern.
I tell you what though, if the Slipstream is working this well here, what's it going to be like at Monza in a few races' time?
Utter carnage, I think, is the.
Cars will be slipstreaming, overtaking, and then re-overtaken before turn 1.
I mean, everybody knows that I am very much an advocate of the idea that we should have an oval race in Formula Virtual. But to be honest with you, Bahrain, even if we're not using the outer loop that people keep erroneously calling an almost oval, we're getting racing that isn't that dissimilar to a good bit of action with some slipstream. So, come on, Nick, let's go to the Daytona Oval. Let's have some fun.
It's kind of like the Bahrain outer loop is kind of like an oval that's been drawn by a child.
What, where someone's made them jump a few times first?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
To
be fair, the outer loop actually looks like an oval that has been ruined by Herman Tilke.
I mean, it seems pretty apt, to be fair, as Felix Perez now then has caught the back of Carson Davenport. Finally, it only took him 4 laps, but I think this should be a fairly easy overtake for the Mexican. Is he going to get 2 in 1? Is he quite? No, he's not. He's thinks better of slamming the brakes on really last minute and running into the back of Harrison, but he does pass Carson Davenport.
Yeah.
Up into, what's that, 14th now then for it's not working, is it?
No, sorry, I was listening to the wonderful Ford engine in the back of that first car. It absolutely sings around here. But it's certainly not. Its cause isn't being helped by the rubber that's been provided for it today.
No, it certainly isn't. Then I wonder if those fresh tyres will aid him in overtaking anywhere else, or whether he will have to wait to get past Johan Halvorsen into turn 1. I think he's going to have to wait, to be honest. Johan Halvorsen, what is going on?
Oh,
as we get another overtake for the lead, that's Klaas van Snelheid back into the top position then, as I think Simon Ruiz have squabbled behind as well, because Simon is back ahead. I've lost track of what's going on, to be honest.
Do we get to the point now where we assume they're just going to do it? So do we even need to talk over it anymore? That's my question.
Well, it's still an overtake for the lead.
Well, what about this overtake? 13th place from not Sergio Perez, Felix Perez. I'm going to keep doing that.
Well, he's through even before the corner, so I think that shows that the fresh medium tyres do have an advantage. Just not in pace.
They need the clear air straight away, and they need to be able to use it throughout the stint, so they can really make use of maybe the 2 or 3 laps of really good pace that they've got before they kind of stagnate. But yeah, it's not really working out, as only 3 complete revolutions of the circuit before, I don't know why I said revolutions, but tours of the circuit until they've reached the 1-stop window for the hard tyres, and which will really put a nail in the coffin of Felix Perez's chances of a good result here.
They certainly will, and those 3 laps actually include the one they're on, don't they?
Yeah.
Because it'll be the end of lap 29. Actually, in fairness, they've just tipped over to lap 28. They're already into 1-stop territory, because that would be 28 and 56.
There you go. I think think it was always inevitable that the hard tyre would be the tyre of choice around here. But that's just, there was a little creeping doubt when we saw how early, relatively speaking, or when the medium tired runner pitted. But yeah, no, I think it's a shame for Perez, but ultimately we've still got I'd say we've got a 2-car battle for the lead with 2 further behind, ready to pounce if there's any problems.
I'll tell you what, I mean, looking at this now as Massa and Giordano go at it again for 7th place, Vasquez is now some 9 seconds up the road. What can Perez salvage out of this now? I'm thinking no better than 7th, to be honest.
No better than 7th, but also he is going to have to get a little bit lucky with when the hard tired runners pit, so that he gets that clear air, so that he can try and make a gap. Otherwise, he is going to still be in the battle with all of these guys. Bearing in mind, actually, at this point in the race, everybody has 1 stop to go. So he needs to make the overtakes to get, apart from Kanga, who probably has another 12 to go. But Perez in 12th has to make he has to make overtakes now if he wants to get to 7th, particularly considering the fact that, because he's going to have to use the clear air when everybody else pits to then pit himself. So he probably won't have to do them on the road, but he's going to have to take advantage of that clear air when he's on used mediums, rather than having to take all the life out of the fresh mediums that he gets afterwards.
Yeah, and let's be fair, it looks to have been a struggle today to even gain time on fresh mediums. So Perez really got his work cut out then. I mean, what's he going to have? To be fair, he is only 2 seconds behind Matson in 7th. It's not an awful lot of time he's got to gain.
Oh no, it's not
point,
a lot of time.
I'm starting to think he might do it before the pit stops.
Obviously, it's not a lot of time at all. But what it is track position, and we've seen with Hoskins, admittedly his teammate in an equal car, but Hoskins could get past and hold him behind, accepting the odd dive bomb from Perez. So I think he will probably just about manage to get up to 7th or 8th, but it's certainly not going to be an easy day, and he needs to get his overtaking boots on really quickly.
Yeah, very much so, and it's...
he tried to go for 1 there on Carl Beckenbauer.
Yeah, he did, and I think that's because he was... he's getting a little bit frustrated, this Perez, because he wasn't able to make a move into turn 1, as I think he was expecting. He was very close off of the final corner, and he was right in the slipstream, and I was expecting it to happen, but Beckenbauer covered the inside line, and Perez just couldn't get the move done.
Yeah, and into the hairpin of turn... Oh, here we go. And this is the first
and that's Powers then. So Nathaniel Powers from 2nd place is the first car into the pits of the top 4.
Yeah, and the only one, crucially, of the top 4, and indeed of the top... Well, I don't know about Hoskins yet. Yeah, Hoskins has gone through. So actually, the only one of the top runners full stop, because Vasquez is pitted now as well. That's interesting for Powers, but it's not going to do him any harm strategy-wise, but it's interesting to see whether he might gain some time on Van Snelheid.
Well, exactly, yeah, this is what we mentioned it earlier, there we go, whether the undercut could come into effect there, and what's he done? So he's come out 23.8 seconds behind his teammate then. That's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. I was wondering for a moment if maybe Ingram were trying the undercut on Will Hoskins, but actually Vasquez was about 8 seconds behind, so I think that's going to be a hell of an ask. Though he has come out in a stonking bit of 8 seconds worth of fresh air.
That couldn't have gone any better for Vasquez if they planned it, which of course they did, because we've got some very good professionals racing up and down the paddock here. But this is a crucial phase of the race now, really, because Van Snelheid, Simon and Ruiz all really now at risk of losing more time to Powers.
They certainly are. That's Kanga making an overtake.
Great effort there from the Estonian, actually doing something positive in this race.
I think that's the first one we've seen from him today.
Oh dear, the poor guy.
Yes, this is
here we go.
A day to remember. Yeah, there we go. Into the pits comes fast Van Snelheid. I wasn't checking. The last time I saw the gap, it was 23.2. Ruiz in as well. Simon doesn't pit.
So Adrian Simon extending yet again. Maybe they're thinking that this is their only chance to do something different to Downton. So Ruiz covers off Van Snelheid a little bit, but
Powers is going to well go through. He's going to be miles in the lead.
Absolutely, yeah.
Nathaniel Powers then pitting a lap before his teammate, has undercut Klaas van Snelheid and taken the lead. Well, I mean, the effective lead here in Bahrain was still waiting for Adrian Simon to pit. Klaas van Snelheid will be absolutely fuming.
They've absolutely gifted the position there to Nathaniel Powers, especially considering the fact that I think on raw pace, Van Snelheid's been faster all weekend.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of it's a very interesting call.
Fastest in practice, he took pole position, which is, I think, was a surprise to me. I mean, Van Snelheid is now on a run of 3 poles in a row. Bearing in mind, before Canada, he'd never taken consecutive pole positions, or been particularly brilliantly qualified. No one's entirely sure where this has come from. But Powers has always been strong in Bahrain as well. He's won round here 3 times in the 7 visits that we've made, as that was one of the arrows. Well, it's got to be Takahashi because Ellington's not in the race. Cutting turn 2, and I think just taking the bollard out. I'm surprised it's lasted this long, to be honest. But yeah, Klaas has been very strong here all weekend. Had the pace on a track where historically Powers is faster. But yeah, he will not be impressed with that one, will the Dutchman?
No, and I think Adrian Seymour, having gone 2 or 3 laps longer, will be even less pleased than everybody because he's going to come out well behind Enrique Ruiz.
Yeah,
at this point, is he going to come out behind Puccio Giordano?
As I think he will.
Yeah.
Giordano's surely going to pit this time out of the ground.
I
don't think it's going to be that bad for Adrian Seymour.
Oh.
Out of the pits, then he's absolutely side by side with teammate Enrique Ruiz. Ruiz is just going to sweep across in front inside of turn 1. Then
that's interesting. I think that that extra lap that both Porsches did, and then Simon one further. I think it just did take the edge off the tyre that little bit more, so that it probably didn't cause much more detriment to them than it did relative to Powers. But Van Snelheid now with a gap to shoot down, and the disgruntled Dutchman probably is going to push on a little bit now, I would have thought, if we know Van Snelheid.
He certainly will. Nathaniel Powers then has just set the fastest lap, but we'll wait to see that tumble because, as we said, Klaas will not take that one lying down. He'll not at all be impressed. The 2 Master Porsches are about 10 seconds off the lead now, though. But I just want to highlight James Vasquez. He's made his pit stop. He's come back out for 7th. He's well clear of even the medium-tyre runners. Perez.
Only 6 seconds behind Perez.
Yeah.
Perez doesn't really stand a chance. So if we look at that, so we're saying it's about 80. It looks like just under 20 seconds for a pit stop. As it stands, Perez I think he has made the margin to come out in 7th. Hasn't he?
I mean, what is? Yeah, so it's very nice. Yeah, there we go. We do get a fastest lap from Klaas van Snelheid as he's closed the gap down already by half a second to Nathaniel Powers. Then, as the 2 Master Porsches haven't come out so close, they're going to squabble, and that is Simon going through into 3rd position. He using his 1 lap fresher tyres to get past his teammate.
Yes, particularly now that they've already kind of lost touch with the lead, and touchwood they are far enough ahead of the first. They might as well have a bit of a race and see who can come out on top.
Is this the first race all season that we've seen?
No, it's the 9th. 11th.
It's 11th. But I was going to say that we've seen Simon and Ruiz on the same strategy. Oh, that's contact into someone, and that is Elroy Wagner round and spun by, was that Nick Addison, I think?
Nick Addison there continuing his feud with half of the drivers.
And that's turned a bad race to trash for Lopez, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Addison, all the way up in 11th place, he's starting to get a nosebleed here.
He certainly is. Thunder's 9th.
Good grief.
But let's not forget, Zviranas, Thunder, Ryan and Addison are all on the medium tyres.
So does that mean we have to say here that Sergio Alvarez is in a net 8th position?
Yes, he is.
Having started 16th and being... Oh, no, it was Alvarez.
With Alvarez. I was going to say, actually, apologies to Nick Addison, it wasn't him. It was the Argentine, Sergio Alvarez, who got his braking all wrong into turn 1. Nearly made contact with Addison on the outside line, but instead aimed for Wagner.
Yeah, Alvarez just pile drive there through both of them. And he looks like he's about to have another go at Nick Addison.
He certainly did. I am impressed by the strength of that Phoenix front wing.
Yeah, best of Manchester. Well, they've used some pretty good bricks.
Maybe, you know the worker bee is the sort of like symbol of Manchester. I wonder if they've
Yeah.
stuck it together with some honey.
I mean, where's the money, honey? Yeah. Yeah, but I think in all seriousness, Alvarez there with what we might call a forceful move as it stands. So it's a pretty good job there from Alvarez, particularly when you can see. And has somehow slipped another 5 positions back to actually be. So they've almost entirely swapped their starting positions.
Yeah, it's not been. I mean, to be fair, I wasn't able to quite keep. I was trying to keep track of it at the front in terms of the pit stop, but I'm assuming Alvarez pitted first.
Yes, I think he did. But
as what's aided him there to sort of jump to the front of that little midfield group.
But I think that shows once again kind of the strength of the midfield as a battle, where you've got Alvarez who can make up 2 seconds, make up another 5 spots, where his teammate loses a couple of seconds and is 5 spots down. So it's really
well. I mean, absolutely. There's 3 seconds between Alvarez in 11th and Davenport in 17th.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Which, when you consider that is taking decent points and finishing well outside the top 10, or the difference between those two things, there's no wonder that what we're looking at the moment is freak results changing the course of qualifying 1 and indeed, the championship standings for the finances next season. It's really, really tight, and just banking on that one good result to really turn the fortunes of the season around.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Hoskins. We've missed this. Somewhere Hoskins has passed Perez.
Oh,
those medium tyres not going particularly well for the Mexican at all. In fact, he's now only 6 seconds ahead of Vasquez. I'm sure that gap was margin.
It was about 8, wasn't it, to start with?
It's not even 6, 5.5.
Yeah, and with only 4 laps to go until we're expecting Felix Perez back in the pit lane. Not good. And actually, yeah, looking at that, I was saying that he was going to come out in a comfortable 7th position. But obviously,
it's Alvarez.
Oh no, yeah, no, accepting the fact that but Zviranas was about 21 seconds behind and is now only 15. So Zviranas is, I don't know. I'm trying to read the pace.
To be honest,
here,
I wasn't really looking at the gap there, so yeah, but I'd be surprised if Zviranas had taken that much out of him. But if he has, fair play. He's also Thunder's keeping pace with him.
Oh, most definitely.
Bearing in mind Zviranas qualified 7th. That's a stonking effort from
because I added 20 seconds to Perez's time, and he would still come out in a comfortable 7th. If you add 20 seconds to Perez's time now, he would come out in 11th, just behind or right in the mix with Alvarez. So, yeah, I'm not convinced that car has pace regardless of the tyre for Perez today. I think Hoskins obviously making it work, but maybe the medium tyres being particularly bad with Perez just because of a lack of pace in general for that combination.
They certainly seem to be slightly further between the top 2 teams than they have been in recent races.
And I think the other comparison we can make is Marcus Thunder and Carson Davenport as well, because one's on the medium and one is on the hard.
Yeah.
And I'd say that on this day in history, Thunder's medium tyres have worked pretty well in comparison to Davenport.
Well, I mean, yeah, he started, 14th? And mind you, when he pits, he's going to come out well behind his teammate.
That is a fair point.
And you think, who behind Davenport is also... Matson's lost out loads. What happened to Jean Matson?
I don't know.
Was he like the last to pit?
I think he might well have been.
Matson missed the memo, didn't he? Everyone else came into the pit lane. He's just toddling around like, what's everyone... Oh yeah, fresh tyres, whoops.
Matson trying to go for the unprecedented zero-stop strategy, falling only 20 laps short. Yeah.
And so Sakhir as well has lost out a lot of ground. And actually...
Oh, there you go, that's a move.
That was
forceful.
It was rather.
Zylander. It was Zylander on Addison, I think.
It was.
And which has now left Beckenbauer very much looking at his prey for the next overtake.
Yeah, it's. I mean, let's be fair. Addison is out of place for the pace of that car.
Yes.
He's got midfield runners coming at him who are considerably quicker, but they are on the hard tyre. But he's now on very old mediums. It's not surprising, I don't think, to see him losing ground as he is at the moment. He's about as far ahead of his teammate as Thunder is ahead of Davenport. So yeah, when he comes out as well, he's going to be
25th.
some way behind.
Well, the only person behind is going to be the one on the even softer tyres.
I mean, Kanga's still got 2 stops to make.
Yep.
And he's 14 seconds behind anyone.
It's not a fun day, is it?
It really isn't.
Well, if Kanga wins this race on an unconventional tyre strategy, as he did in Fuji, we're in for a one hell of a final 20 laps.
I was going to say, if Kanga wins this, good lord. What?
Oh my god.
I think he needs a meteorite, to be honest.
Well, unfortunately, there are no meteors in the race to actually cause any carnage. I see.
That was very quick, I like that one. There's on board with Carson Davenport then. I was going to talk about Johan Halvorsen about 10 laps ago and got absolutely sidetracked. Johan Halvorsen then, what is going on?
And I think that's exactly what you said 10 laps ago as well. Johan Halvorsen has been really good, but I feel like the car has just lost out that little bit. Because if you look at Garcia was in the races that Halvorsen was really showing his mettle and be really impressing. Garcia was still knocking on the door of the top 10, whereas now Halvorsen has made that drop down a little bit, whereas Garcia is right at the back of the midfield. So I'm struggling to work out whether it's Halvorsen losing form or whether it's just that North Star that hasn't really kicked on quite as much as other cars on the grid. And I'm torn because we know how good a driver Halvorsen is as Felix Perez pits for the final time, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes out. But Halvorsen's done really well this season. I don't think anyone can deny he's been one of the best drivers on the grid. But now the car's just lost its edge a little bit. I think he's becoming that little bit more anonymous.
Yeah, but that's strange because it's not something we've come to expect from Johan Halvorsen. But he scored the podium in the United States, Indianapolis, which obviously there was a lot of luck involved in that. But we had 3 wide into turn 1.
Good effort.
Was that because that was Perez coming out the pit? Oh, so Perez has come out the pits in 11th. So he has to overtake Alvarez and Giordano then if he's to get back up into 7th place.
Yeah. No, it's not gone well, and he's got to make up 3 seconds on Alvarez first. So which on the pace that he's had today isn't actually going to be the easiest job in the world.
That's going to take the life out of the tyres, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly if we've got Zylander playing back defence.
He's 19 seconds behind Vasquez. That's gone. 6th place is gone for Perez.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Zviranas and Thunder obviously won't be a factor, but Giordano, I think, might be getting that 7th.
It's certainly one we'll keep an eye on. The gap is 4 seconds then. Perez is going to have to put in a superhuman effort here in the final stint if he's to take that one back. But Halvorsen, scored that podium. A bit of luck involved, admittedly, but he still had to pull out the goods to be able to do it. But then Canada happened, and North Star just. Well, I mean, it wasn't just Halvorsen. North Star's pace just vanished all weekend. They were slow in practice, they were slow in qualifying, and they were slow in the race. But then we've turned up here, and Halvorsen's been out-qualified by Gabriele Garcia.
Yeah.
And
Garcia,
I can't remember the last time that happened.
Neither can I, but Garcia has more to offer than a lot of people in the paddock give him credit for. He's not going to be the next world champion, certainly. And I don't think it's a big jump to say that he's probably never going to get in a position where he has a chance of winning the title. But he's solid. He's thoroughly unspectacular. Don't get me wrong, but he's solid. He can pull a result out of the car which isn't terrible. And I know that is the most that's the most awful praise you can ever bestow upon a racing driver, that he's just totally unremarkable. But he's a benchmark, and Halverson has thoroughly beaten him. Everybody's a benchmark.
I think bench would be more appropriate. Some of the pace that Garcia's demonstrated.
That's the thing. Like, so you're looking at Garcia, who qualified 12th, with Halverson, who qualified 21st. Are we not going to then say, actually, Halverson's decent? Has Garcia pulled something out of the bag unexpectedly?
Yeah, on this one race in, like, what, 2.5 seasons of being teammates?
No, exactly. Every dog has its day.
Yeah, unfortunately for Garcia, it's still not going to really pay in anything because he's only 5th. He's behind Halverson again now anyway.
Yeah, but
actually, Alvarez is ahead of Giordano now. Giordano's not going to... Actually, Giordano's just about to go back through into that one then. Perez has already caught them.
Ooh.
So the medium tyres, I'm just wondering if maybe, now that we're a little bit later on in the evening, you know, the temperatures have dropped considerably from what they were at the start of the race. I'm just wondering if maybe this medium's coming into its own a little bit more.
I think there's an element of that, but there's also an element that if you get the clear air to start with, you can push on the tyre. And you might find that first couple of laps of pushing actually conditions the tyre to run it a bit nicer throughout the stint. What you might be finding is that it's taking too much of the tyre surface off without really getting the core temperature up to start with.
That's a very fair point. That is a very fair point, and I think additionally, something else that we need to probably take into consideration, there's a lot less fuel in the car.
Yes, there is that as well. Absolutely.
That there is, which is obviously going to treat the tyres better. As up front, when did the leaders pit, by the way? It was about sort of 29, 30, 31, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So bang on mid-distance. The gap was 3.5 seconds that came out of the pits. Class has closed that now to around 2. So a second and a half in 10 laps, 15 laps to go. He could be just there at the end of the race.
Yeah, he's going to be close enough to be disappointingly close when he doesn't do anything.
Oh,
as we go 3 wide at the once again, these three are really. Oh my goodness me!
That's contact.
Perez has just gone through the middle of. Oh wow, he went through the middle of both of them briefly, but Alvarez pulled back across. But I think it's only a matter of time now that Perez proves me entirely wrong, as I think he's done 2 or 3 times this season, and probably takes 7th place to then take a comfortable 7th place. Having said earlier on he's going to fail.
I think at the moment it looks fairly nailed on, but here we go then with the replay on board with Perez. He went for the gap in the middle. That gap was nowhere near big enough for a Formula Virtual car, and he just slammed into the back of Giordano.
Yeah, I think he was hoping he was going so quickly he'd broken the space-time continuum and could indeed fit through that gap, but as you say, not really enough space for a first there. But he made it work to an extent, and now he's got one more driver to overtake until he's got some clear air, and probably going to have to settle for 7th.
I mean, I'll tell you what, that was push to pass if ever I've seen it.
Oh, I like it. But then again, Alvarez might be able to give as good as he gets, because we've seen him today remove drivers from the situation, shall we say.
He certainly exit stage left Wagner, didn't he, earlier on?
Yes, exactly. I like it. It was like one of his concertos.
Yes. That was totally the joke I was going for.
As in Richard Wagner, rather than Wagner, who of X Factor fame.
Yes, as Perez goes through past Alvarez into 7th, that was fairly comfortable.
Absolutely. Interesting to see whether Giordano can get past Alvarez in the latter stages of the race, but another solid performance of Westwood in their landmark 100th race.
It absolutely has been, and it's going to be, you know, once again some reasonable points for Giordano, isn't it? As I've just noticed, actually Halverson is 3 passes Islander into 10th as well. So Halverson, we were just kind of almost slagging him off, saying he'd been practically nowhere in the last 2 races.
Well, you were.
Okay, I was almost practically slagging him off, saying he'd been nowhere in the last 2 races. He has pulled it back from 21st on the grid to scoring a point. That's a solid effort.
Yeah, I think that's almost on a par with Alvarez, 8th from 16.
These two are now firmly scrapping over the final podium position, aren't they? And
Well, they're
neither
having
one of
fun.
them is willing to let the other one have it.
They're having fun, which means Hoskins will inevitably score a late podium.
Well, I mean, what is he's 11 seconds back? In fairness, he's not lost any more time in the stint, but then he has no one to battle.
Yeah.
Mind you, Vasquez is keeping him honest. Okay, I know he's 11 seconds behind, but I'd have expected him to be further back.
No, I know what you mean.
When you consider, I mean, look at that. He is what? He's 17 seconds clear of any of the other midfield runners.
Yeah, no, he's done an absolutely awesome job. And looking at Hoskins and Perez, there's 28 seconds between them.
Yeah.
Which is more than a pit stop, bearing in mind he's done one more stop. So on the softer tyre, he's actually lost 6 seconds, even if you neglect the fact he's had to spend longer stationary.
Yeah, and I think that 6 seconds absolutely came stuck in traffic, didn't it?
Yeah, so I think that just proves the point really nicely that the medium tyre hasn't worked in any sense of the word work today.
No, it hasn't, and that's interesting because it did here last year. Enrique Ruiz led away at the front on the medium tyre. Yes, okay, he had the clear air, but he just kind of bombed off into the distance and was comfortably clear until he ran into the back of. As we've got a yellow flag into turn 1.
Something's about to happen.
Or in sector 1 was the two Master Porsches are still going. Klaas van Snelheid has slipped back to 4 seconds behind Nathaniel Powers. So there's been a mistake, surely, somewhere for the Dutchman.
Oh,
here we go then.
No.
No, that was Yukimi Takahashi then. In the arrow, cutting turn 2. Once again, it's not the first time we've seen it today. And breaking his front wing, spinning round and costing Klaas van Snelheid time. I mean, that'll just anger an already infuriated Dutchman.
Yes, I'm hoping that they have the bleep machine ready on Dutch television for after the race for the interviews, because Van Snelheid isn't going to be a very happy boy at all.
To be fair, if he's really that unimpressed, he probably won't turn up to his interviews, because that's what usually happens.
There's that, but also, if he's really unimpressed, he'll probably say it in English too.
That's very true.
But Takahashi with the error there, though. I was about to say, with Kanga firmly off the foot of the standings now. However, he's just made a pit stop, so it's only a matter of time.
That's going to be painful if Kanga finishes last. No one else is going to pit again. He's still got one stop to make.
Yeah, and Takahashi has just pitted to get his wing replacement.
Well, of course, he might just about get away with this one then.
Yeah, I was about to ask a bit of trivia. Has there been a Formula Virtual season where a driver has been classified first and last in the same season? As in, last on the road without any retirements? Which I doubt, but then last on the road even with retirements probably isn't that likely.
I mean, the only one that would come to mind would possibly be Campos in 2014.
Oh, that's a good shout. I shall consult the Oracle.
Past that, to be honest, I can't see it happening.
No.
But you never know, as Zylander is back through into 10th ahead of Halverson, so these two are obviously going to duke it out over the remaining laps for the final point position. Likewise, just ahead of them, Giordano and Alvarez for 8th place. Then at the moment, it's the Italian who holds that.
Yeah, most definitely. And for reference, Diego Campos finished classified last and 20th in the first race of the 2014 season and won the 6th race of the season. So, yes, you're absolutely right. Diego Campos is, in fact, that's the answer to that trivia question.
Well, there we go. And Kanga is going to join an exclusive. I mean, to be fair, he's got Takahashi behind him at the moment.
I was going to say, I think he might even fail to do that today. I don't think he's going to win anything in that regard today.
To be fair, at this point, I think beating Takahashi would be a win.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just looking now at Diego Campos' career. I'd imagine he is the answer to an extraordinary number of trivia questions related to Formula Virtual, particularly if Ahmed Chima is the quizmaster.
Yeah, almost definitely, and I do believe he is also the answer to who is the only Spaniard to have won a Formula Virtual race.
That surprises me. I mean, it doesn't, because obviously I know I've watched all the races, but that surprises me that we've never had a Spaniard that has actually been a bona fide contender.
We haven't, but there is one floating around in the junior categories at the moment.
Yes, there is, and I believe I know who you're talking about.
I mean, I'd hope so.
Yes, I know. Carlos Zapatero racing in the. He's racing for Lapierre with their New Caledonian effort in the virtual Oceania Asia Racing Series this year. So it's going to be an interesting season for him because it's his second or third year in the series. So it's really a chance for him to push on and contend for the title. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I think. If you've got the results and things open there, I'd just check.
I have, yes.
I think he's a reasonable way in the lead, is he not?
Yeah, so he's leading the championship ahead of Cho. I think that was supposed to be Chloe.
Is that Chloe King?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's leading the championship ahead of Chloe King.
Cho King.
Yeah. It's such a shame that Lily couldn't be here to commentate with us today, but that is one that she will definitely appreciate. Cho King. Oh no. Anyway, Carlos Zapatero has won 3 races so far this season with another second and 3 third places. And 21 points ahead in the standings. No, I tell a lie, 31 points ahead in the standings with 6 races to go. So Zapatero, possibly holding Spain's hopes.
Yeah, certainly could. I think a lot of people were expecting, to be fair, when De La Fuente stepped up, we're expecting him to maybe be able to do something. He had a few good years in, FP2 and VWRS, but De La Fuente couldn't quite pull it together, could he? But I think we need a good Spanish driver. As I say, we've not had one in Formula Virtual at all.
No, De La Fuente was unlucky, I feel, because I thought he came in and he was thoroughly decent at Andromeda when he got the opportunity.
Bearing in mind how highly Will Hoskins is rated,
exactly.
For him to match Hoskins and on a number of occasions beat him, it was a solid effort from De La Fuente. And I think he was really unfairly dropped by Arrow early this year to make way for Lewis Ellington, who's been unspectacular.
Oh no, I couldn't agree more. I think the only thing going against De La Fuente was his age. He's now 28, so starting to just kind of reach the point where he should be at his peak. But I think that De La Fuente would certainly be worthy of a spot on the Formula Virtual Grid. But then I couldn't give you the big answer of who would I drop to put him in.
Garcia.
That's your answer to
just
everyone.
My default answer to who I would drop. Kovalenko.
Yeah, Kovalenko, perhaps. But then there are a number of drivers from all over various championships and various series that I think are worthy of a place in Formula Virtual. So that's it. I'm really looking forward to seeing quite a few of these youngsters coming through the rankings now. Yeah,
definitely. There certainly look to be a few interesting youngsters out there. Then there's Nathaniel Powers, puts a lap on. That is Timo Kinnaman. Kinnaman's had a bad few races recently, hasn't he? Currently running down in 23rd. I think Powers lost a little bit of time to his teammate there. Fast closed the gap by about half a second, but Takahashi really cost him, didn't he?
Yeah, no, you absolutely mentioned. Well, yeah, he has robbed us of what looked like it was going to be a great battle for the win, probably a few laps from the end. You go back to Timo Kinnaman, though, he's had a very difficult time, but at least he's going to complete 9 stops fewer today than he did in the United States. So progress is being made.
This is very true. He managed to draw the Indianapolis pit lane from memory after the race last time out. He's not a fan of it anymore.
No, most definitely.
As we go on board with Nathaniel Powers, and we've got 8 laps to go here in Bahrain. It's to be fair, it's flown by pretty quickly for a race with no retirements and pretty much everyone being on the same strategy. We've seen a fair amount of racing.
Yeah, there's been some good moves throughout the field. teammates battling when perhaps they were best served not to for their race strategy, but still gave us some good action. We've seen the odd mistake made by drivers that has caused some mayhem. I think that's all you can ever really ask for from a Formula Virtual race.
Yeah, it's been certainly been an interesting one. It's always fairly decent to hear. And I tell you what, Nathaniel Bowers then with as I say, that 3-second advantage over Class 1 Shamrock. I mentioned earlier, he just seems to have an affinity with this track. 3 wins in 7 appearances. Well, this could make it 4 from 8.
50% record at any circuit is something that any driver will be extremely proud of.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what have we got? Yeah, Rimiz and Simon looked as though they've stopped battling now for third. I don't know if
I think Ruiz is
Simon won't have given up on that one, but I think Ruiz has just gapped him ever so slightly.
Yeah, just broken away from the slipstream. Something that I've been doing the past couple of races. Let's look down the timing screen. Who haven't we spoken about yet today?
Beckenbauer. I don't think I've mentioned Carl Beckenbauer yet. He's sat in 12.
Yeah, no, very good. I always like to play the game of who's been the most anonymous driver.
Yeah, I mean, solid. He's only, to be fair, he's only 4 seconds behind his teammate.
Yeah, no, I think Beckenbauer's done a good job today. It's just that Giordano once again has been that one, been the one just to take a little bit more of the initiative and a little bit more of the advantage.
And look at that, 4 seconds is going to be the difference between 4 points and 2 places outside the points. Although that might be 2 points in a minute, as Alvarez dives down the inside of Richard Giordano to take back 8th place. But I'm sure they will swap positions more than once before the checkered flag falls.
Yep. Oh, and there we go. We've just had a retirement.
That's Thunder, isn't it?
Thunder.
Marcus Thunder then parked up at the side of the track. And so Klaas obviously got caught up in that as well. So I'd have seen the timing screen just as Powers was approaching that. So the gap back out to about 2.5 seconds.
Yep.
Apologies, Marcus. I did say earlier on there was no retirements.
Complete lack of drive there from the Downton power plant. And is that Addison behind? Yeah. No, maybe.
I think that was him in a car, like.
No, I was just wondering whether there was any involvement from the Australian, considering their. But there you go. So Kanga, two cars classified behind him, and 1 car that won't finish behind. Well, guaranteed to finish behind him now.
Yeah, it's starting to look up for Alar Kanga, isn't it?
Well, only 24 more retirements, and he's got this one sewn up.
What? Only 22. 2 of them behind him already.
Well, we've got to be on the safe side. I reckon they might overtake him given enough time.
Oh, mind you, he does have to pit again.
That's
my
problem.
He is a lap down, but then I suppose in theory he'll still be aiming for 57 winners, so he will still pit on lap 55, although it will be his penultimate lap.
Also, to be fair, I know Wagner has been backwards at one point in this race, but Kanga's not that far away from Wagner on the standings.
No, he's really not. Yes, it's not been a brilliant race for Lopez, has it? I'm sure Dylan will regret turning up in Bahrain.
Yes.
That's Halverson just taking 10th back from Zylander. I'll tell you what, these two battling this, but Beckenbauer and Matson right in the picture there. We've got 4 cars over the final 6 laps then, absolutely vying for a point. Davenport isn't far behind either if the 4 of them trip over one another.
Yeah, and then if they all trip over each other as well, Kanga well in with a shout.
You're really stretching this.
I'm sorry, but yeah, everything has just stretched out for the first 8 positions now. Giordano really putting the pressure on Alvarez, but yeah, I think you're right. I think the main battle we've got now: Halverson, Zylander, Beckenbauer, and Matson all going past the camera as fast as I can say it.
Yeah, I think just looking slightly further up as well, Perez. We were mentioning the medium tyres look better at this final stint. I think he's absolutely carried that through. He's pulled out 10 seconds on those behind him. He has closed on Vazquez slightly.
Yeah, I think Perez has shown there that I still think that if you can guarantee yourself pole position here on this day and you put the medium tyre on, you're going to win the race. But it's just a difficult strategy to pull off anywhere other than in first place.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest. I think it was an ask. The mediums just in any conditions earlier on just didn't seem quick. Even when Perez had clear air earlier in the race, it's only been this final stint that he's really found any pace on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's done a solid job recovering to 7th. It was at one stage in this race, it was far more than I thought he was going to manage.
No, absolutely. I thought he was going to be in with a struggle for definite, but his pace when the hard tired runners pitted, combined with the pace that he then had to get past a couple of the runners and then pull away on the fresh mediums. He's earned every one of those points that come from 7th position.
Absolutely. Just playing your favourite game then, down through the order.
Pick a position, any position.
Chima. We haven't spoken an awful lot about Chima.
No, 21st and 22nd, about to be one car about 20 seconds back at the very least. So, yeah. But if you consider where Chima started a couple of years ago. Last year. And you look at them now, they are firmly in with a shout of being in every race. In fact, at the moment, they're not in Q1, are they?
They're not, no.
So they're guaranteed to be in every race at the moment. They're knocking on the door of points every time there's an eventful race, and they always seem to be there or thereabouts in those crazy races. They always seem to be the ones that benefit rather than the ones that cause the mayhem.
Yeah, they certainly do. As without Milkovic's 2 points at Indianapolis, although they didn't benefit at Silverstone earlier in the year.
No, that is very true.
Oh, that was Matson then with a very late move then. Off the inside of Carl Beckenbauer at turn 4, and I think he's still will to will the German. Is he going to pull this off into the sweep?
No, he's
lost the place to Davenport.
Oh no! John Matson going for some heroics there, evoking the podium finish at Indianapolis, but unfortunately got a little bit big for his boots, and Davenport's put him in his place firmly there.
Yeah, he absolutely has. Brilliant bit of foresight there from the Portuguese driver. I think looking at Matson and the way the back end kicked out as he stood on the brakes into turn 4, I'm not even sure he expected to make that overtaking attempt on his top Beckenbauer.
Yeah, it's possibly less of an overtaking attempt, more of a overtaking by avoiding hitting him.
Absolutely. But, it didn't work for the Frenchman, and Matson slips back to 14th then. As further up the road, we've still got Giordano leading Alvarez. So, what have we got? They're just about to start lap 55. If they overtake one another every lap, Alvarez will take 8th place.
Oh, I like it.
Well, we've got 3 more times into turn 1. This is one of them, and it's Alvarez going through then.
Yeah, I think that kind of stat is very much on the par with 22 retirements and Kanga takes the victory.
It's that place that Davenport just gained, he's lost it. And Matson and Davenport have now slipped some way behind Beckenbauer as well, who's clinging onto the coattails of Johan Halvorsen, but it's now really free from the final point, as we look at Yukimi Takahashi running around in a comfortable last place.
Yeah.
Why not, eh? Who's he
but
got behind
Takahashi.
him? That's got to be Hoskins coming up to lapping us now.
Yeah, but Takahashi running, that's still good.
Well, this is very, very true. Nathaniel Powers then, on his penultimate lap now here in Bahrain, 2.5 seconds back, just under 2.5 seconds back to Barcelona. Now, I mean, that's a battle that's done and dusted, isn't it? It was that was one we were very, very much robbed of, I feel.
Yeah.
And I think one that Klaas will feel he was robbed of as well. Can't imagine he's going to be a particularly happy Dutchman to get to Can't we go on board Puccio Giordano? They're about to start their penultimate lap then, so here we go. Will he do it this time? I think he will do it this time around now, so he's going to risk it and try and defend it next lap. Giordano down the inside on lap 56, and he's going to take 8th place from Alvarez. So Alvarez will just have to sit there and pick up the slipstream on the final tour, and surely 8th place will go the way of the Argentinian.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach there from Giordano, as you say. I think looking at the front, I think that the podium today, the only person that's going to be happy is Powers. I think that, as you say, Van Snelheid will be livid at not only the fact that he got Takahashi cost him time, but the fact that he was put behind in the first place by the undercut for Powers. Whereas Ruiz and Simon both can't be happy with the fact that their car is fundamentally not as quick as the Downton anymore, having started with the fastest car of the season. But yep, and there we go. Kanga finishing the set of pit stops for this race. So yeah.
So Kanga leaves his pit box then. Where is Takahashi?
I think Kanga might be safe from finishing last here.
I think
yes, he is.
Right. Yeah, indeed. So somehow he's just about hold on. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right with regards to Enrique Ruiz and Adrian Simon. They're not going to be impressed with this at all. But you know, as we've said historically, this has been a strong track for Powers, for Downton, and I don't think we'll see this everywhere. We haven't seen it. You know, we didn't even see it last week not last week, a couple of weeks ago now, wasn't it, in Canada?
Yeah.
You know, they didn't have this kind of gap. I don't think we'll see it next time out, either in Turkey.
Yeah.
I think it's just a track that suits them. As there we go, as we said, Alvarez does go through on the final lap at turn 1 on Giordano, and Halverson takes Zylander for the final point position as well. But this is Nathaniel Powers then, considerably further ahead, rounding the final corner, and Powers used the undercut, absolutely brilliant, to take his 4th win here in Bahrain, his 3rd of the season. Klaas van Snelheid finishes a very, very unhappy, you'd imagine, 2nd place, and we'll surely have some words from the team after that one. Enrique Ruiz is going to limit the damage with the final step on the podium, as Adrian Simon just misses out in 4th place. Will Hoskins actually was an awful lot closer than I thought he was going to be there. You could already see him in the background as the two Mass Short Porsches were coming over the line. Hoskins takes a solid and lonely 5th. It's another absolutely phenomenal drive from James Vazquez. Admittedly, he benefited from the medium tyres on Felix Perez's car not really working, but it's the 2nd, 6th place in a row then for the Colombian. And Vazquez's stock is just rising and rising, isn't it, now, after some really unlucky results earlier in the season. Perez will take 7th. Alvarez is surely going to finish 8th. There's nowhere for Giordano to pass. And Halverson will likely take the final point.
Yeah, Powers done a fantastic job today. I think that, again, driver of the day, you're probably going to have to say, once again, James Vazquez.
I'd agree.
Great drive again. But, yeah, Vazquez showing...
Halverson also did a solid job. He gained 11 places, to be fair, on a strategy that was pretty much the same as half the field.
Yeah, same for Alvarez as well. Yeah, coming from 16th to 8th, I think. We've had 3 standout drives today. I think you're definitely right. Vazquez, Alvarez and Halverson.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And Alar Kanga did avoid finishing last.
Perfect way to finish the race.
It's something. As Nathaniel Powers then leads his teammate back into the pit lane. There will be words in the Downton garage, I'm sure. But, well, Powers won't care one iota as he wins here in Bahrain, his first Downton 1-2 of the season.
So there we have it then. Klaas van Snelheid was closing in but couldn't do enough, and it's Nathaniel Powers who holds on for his 3rd win of the season then. Ahead of his teammate, it's Downton's first 1-2 of the year as Enrique Ruiz completes the podium in 3rd ahead of his teammate. Will Hoskins 5th ahead of another stunning performance from James Vazquez. Admittedly, he was aided by the tyre choice of Perez and the first team, but again, strong points for Ingram. It's a retirement for Marcus Thunder, the only one, as Klaas van Snelheid sets the fastest lap. In the Drivers' Championship, there isn't a whole lot of movement. Powers extends his lead at the top to 12 points. Klaas is now just 3 behind Ruiz. The only mover is Vazquez then. That 6th place and those 8 points pulls him up 3 positions ahead of Gabriele Garcia, Dominic Aspirinas and Elroy Wagner, who all slip slightly down the standings. There is very little movement, in fact no movement at all between those behind him who are yet to score points. And in the Constructors' Championship then, what does all that mean? Well, again, not a whole lot. Downton extend their lead to 47. They now have over a race in hand, while behind Phoenix, with that last lap overtake for Sergio Alvarez on Giordano, have moved past Westwood by 1 point. They're now just 5 behind Ocelot. But that's all from our race here today in Sakhir. So from both me and Rob, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time for round 12 from Istanbul, Turkey.